Helicopters, baby. Yeah! Hello and welcome dear skilled modelers to my small hobby YouTube channel. My name is Tomo. On today's video agenda are helicopters, more specifically 72nd scale, 100 scale and 144th scale models. I've chosen today's models because they're affordable and easy to put together. All of them except for one are level 3 models, which means they are easy to put together and have a low part count. The only one that doesn't have level 3 is the last one, the Kamov, the helicopter, and that's the one that we're going to be looking at the last. This video is going to be a little bit longer because we have 8 model kits to review, so I think it's best that we just go and crack on. Behold. Here in front of us are the models that we're going to review today in this video, and we'll go quickly over each and every one of them. The way we're going to tackle this today is we're going to go from the oldest to the most recent. Most of the scale model helicopters that you see here in front of us are basically just reboxed versions of previous helicopters that have been around for some time now, and you will see what I mean. So I think that we will start with the oldest, and we will first start with this 72nd scale Cobra from Tamiya. Believe it or not, this kit has been first released by Italieri way back in 1987, and other manufacturers then copied, I guess, his design, and this particular box was released in 1993. It is a Warbird collection, 172nd scale model, and this is on its bottom side, and then it's on the upper side where we have the listing for all the colors that you need to use, which is a really super thing. And inside, of course, is a plastic model kit. As you can see, it's pretty basic. Not many parts. It only has 3 trees, 2 main body trees and 1 clear part. And let's take a look at the first one, the first main sprue. Here we can see nice little body panels, some of the arsenal rockets and intakes. For a well, 30-year-old model, it's really not that bad, to be honest. I mean, it's Tamiya, but you can see if you take a closer look, there is a bit of flash here and there. Again, I don't know how well it goes together, but I'm guessing that it might be just fine. Here is the other sprue with the big main rotor. The design and the layout is pretty cool, and the detail on them, it's pretty nice. This is all surface detail, raised surface detail with all the little vents, so this is really nice. What else can I see here? So we got the seats here. Yes, most of the things that you see here, like this little nubbing here, you can cut it off, so that's not a problem. But even the most intricate little I think this is a pitot sensor, where it measures the speed of the helicopter. It's pretty nice, I must say. For a 30-year-old model, it's really nice. And of course, we have a clear part that's basically just one big canopy with raised detail here. Decals for this helicopter are very simple and small. You can just see that you have a very small sheet, very minimalistic, but the printout is pretty good. If I take you close, you see you can read the text if you go really close. Next on the list is this Apache Aah 64. It's also a 72nd scale model, and is also from the same time period. So the initial release was by Italier in 1987, and Tamiya, I believe, released this one in 1993. So just like the first box, it has nice indication on the sides of the boxes of how the model is supposed to look, and it has the graphical and the lettering and the numbering of the needed colors for this model to be painted. Like the previous one, it is a Warbird collection. So let's take a look inside. Just like the previous kit that we reviewed, this one is also very simple in nature. Not a lot of parts, only 3 trees or sprues. And let's take a look at the first one. So we've got a nice body. This time it is a dark olive green color, the base plastic. So the first one was gray because of the base coat. This one, of course, is dark olive green, I believe. And the plastic is also very nice. We also all have this raised detail. It's really nice. You can feel it. It's textured. The parts are nicely cast, or well, actually molded. There is not a lot of flash around for a 30-year-old model. It's again a very nicely presented and molded. For a 30-year-old model, it is pretty good. Even the main cannon here, the trademark, I guess, of the Apache. The second sprue, of course, has the fuselage, again, raised detail all around. It's pretty nice, textured. You can feel everything, all the little rivets. It's pretty nice. Then we have the cockpit assembly, and of course all the arsenal that you ever want to have on this helicopter. The instrument panel is detailed. You can see you have various instruments laid out nicely. This is really a nice touch. And the last one, of course, is the canopy, a little box canopy with raised detail like before. Here we have some decals, just like on the previous one, very minimalistic, but nevertheless high quality print. I think stands the test of time. But it's not like this decals are 30 years old. It's just that they've been the same for 30 years, so you know, it's good. So Revell released this bad boy as early as 1990, but this I think is the predecessor to Actuate Miniatures that was released maybe a little earlier or at the same time as this Revell one. Revell has a tendency to redo the box arts for their kits very often, and this is their new box art style. If you've ever gone into a hobby store, you've seen that their older kits look like this with the blue background, and the newer boxes are like more black, more diamond shaped. They look a little bit cooler, but the kit inside is basically just the same as it was all those years ago. So the box art has changed, and also, of course, differences on the back is that as the previous kits had this little standard, you know, buy all sorts of Revell stuff. Here it's actually depicting the model on the back with the colors that you need to use for this helicopter, and I think this is a pretty nifty way to try to show the consumer what else do you need. Like many of the Revell kits that we're going to be seeing today, this one comes also in the set pack with the basic colors and glue. So let's open this box up. Here we see we have 4 sprues, 2 containing body stuff and 1 clear sprue. And right off the bat I can tell you guys that Revell has kind of a reputation to have less than perfect kits, but this one from that era, I think it's pretty decent, to be honest. And it has some good improvements that I really enjoy over the helicopters from Revell. And the first one that I can see is, you see these little notches here in the windows. These are basically to rest the clear part inside. If you've ever built a helicopter from Revell or Italier for that matter, you know how fiddly it is to fit a window inside those little holes, especially to align them. And I think that this little addition of a little lip is very much welcome. I know it might be a little bit obtrusive if you're going for ultra realism, but I guess you can always cut it off if you want, or at least after that. But I think that's pretty cool. And I must say that the quality of the sprues in general is pretty nice. I mean, there is a little bit of flash on some parts, but not as much as I was expecting it to be. So I think it's pretty cool. These are all these panel lines are not raised detail, so these are grooved. They're indented, except maybe for the back fin. This has raised detail. That's really nice. And here again you can see the little notches in the windows where you can rest the clear parts. And even the smaller pieces, I mean, like I've said, I mean, it's not bad at all. This one is actually pretty decent. Hopefully it goes together pretty well. and this has raised detail as well. And then we have the smaller one, some intakes. Actually, these are the side mountings for arsenal, and of course the clear parts, which are good but not great. I mean, they are, you can see inside. I mean, they're clear enough so that you can see inside, but they're not like wow, super clear. Decals for this helicopter are a little bit more extensive than the first one. We have the control panels and some surfaces. They're not as sharply printed, I believe, as the first two kits, but nevertheless, it's pretty good. I mean, most of the interior stuff is not going to be seen, so, you know, with the foggy, semi-foggy glass, it's pretty, you know, okay. So I think overall, I'm pretty happy with the printout and the layout of the decals. Like the previous helicopter that we've reviewed, this one also has a full color manual, but the sprues and the parts feel a little bit cheap, to be honest. And the plastic also feels a little bit thin. You can basically see through the plastic if you shine the light, and I think that they've been skipping on cost here. There is some raised detail for the floors. The rest of the detail on the helicopter, except for the grills on top, are engraved, are indented. Here we have the standard window where you can just plop a clear part inside and hope that it fits great. It also has a little bit of flash on the inside edge, and also there is no detail as far as you can see on the inside. I mean, on this small scale, 100 scale, it's really not important because you really cannot truly see inside. But you know, there is some matted detail for the roof lining and the dividing wall that is inside the cargo compartment here, or the transport compartment. The second sprue is no different. It has all the other necessary parts. The other half, again, the details that you see here are indented, so there is no raised detail here except for the grooves, actually the grills on the top, which I think is a nice little touch. The parts themselves, they're not that bad, but immediately when you pick it up in your hands, you see it's kind of delicate, it's kind of fragile, and I think that you'll have to be very careful when you take some of these little more tiny little antennas and pivots out, so that you don't damage them or bend them, because it can happen pretty quickly. And we have the clear parts, which are pretty atrocious, to be honest. I mean, like if I take a closer in more detail, you can see that they are very foggy. I mean, you probably could try to buff them out, but really, I mean, guys, that's just going too far for this kind of model. So the interior detail really doesn't need to be that crazy. As you can imagine, the decals are also very minimalistic. They're very small compared to anything else. You only have the instrument panel for the top, I believe, and that's basically it. Some arrows, danger, and I think this is like a wasp or something. I mean, yeah, they're very simplistic. So some cockpit instruments panel. I believe that, I mean, there is an instrument panel here. I mean, somewhere, I guess. The instrument panel is here, and that's the decals. But other than that, it's really not that detailed. The next model on the list is this Bell UH-1D SAW. It's a 1/72nd scale model as opposed to the one before, which was 100 scale. It's a bigger one, so yeah, I mean, it's an older model, older box. The same, I think it was released in 1994. And yeah, just let's take a look at it. So the model is noticeably bigger because it's a 1/72nd scale, but the way that Revell made this is the same as the one before. The only difference is that this time they opted for a more thicker plastic parts. It's still a little bit cheap fitting, to be honest, but it's a kit from the era of my youth, and you know, it kind of brings up memories. In other words, it's all good. The detail on this particular model is raised, so you can feel all those little lines and grooves on top, so that's pretty cool. As for the other parts, they're okay. I mean, there's not a ton of detail. It's good, but it's not great. The inside, of course, is pretty plain. Then we have the main rotor, which is assembled. This is pretty cool, as opposed to you having assembled it as a model builder, because usually it's kind of fiddly, and I think that this is a pretty cool one. There is flash here and there, but it's not that bad. The top surface is again textured, as well as the dividing wall. We have the skids, we have the instrument panel, which in this case has some raised detail on it. And then we of course have the arsenal, and I think these are the benches, or actually the straps for the injured personnel, which have kind of nice detail on. If you take a little closer look, you can see that there is detail on these little smart things, and we have some hooks here, and we have some clear parts with other on a very special bag. I guess these are more delicate, but just looking from the bag, they're a little bit better than the one before, but it's really nothing to be all really great. The decals for this helicopter are a little bit more extensive. As you can see, we've got nice little emblems on the top, depending on which type of mountain service you're opting for, since this is a rescue helicopter. And yeah, I mean, they're just nicely printed, nicely presented, so I don't think this would be an issue. Ooh. This one is a civilian helicopter, the Airbus EC-135. It's of course a rescue helicopter, and it's a 1/72nd scale model. Initially, this was released by Revell in 2001, so we are just coming over the 2000 era. This one was reboxed, I believe, in 2015, and it also comes in a kit form, and also comes in a new version that was released in 2016. It's also a helicopter, but I think it's a fire and rescue helicopter in that respect. So yeah, let's take a look at this one. This one is a little bit more substantial in the part count department, and the plastic, as you can see, is white, since this is a brightly colored helicopter. Revell gives you the ability to use a white background, so the colors are more vibrant. And the plastic on the first touch, again, it feels a little bit cheap. It's not that great, but you know, I guess it works. The detail on the surface, as you can see, you have to assemble the tail section, is indented, so there is no raised detail. Again, there's minor flashing on the corners. Here we have the internals of the helicopter. I think this is the bottom, where this is the floor, yeah, and then we have the instrument panels, some seats that have the seat does have this one has seat belts on them, and it's raised detail. So if you can just look at this little seat belt here, you can just make it out, it's here. And we have some instruments, of course, in the back, and a stretcher with raised detail. Here is where it kind of goes all sideways. You can see there's like nastiness on top. This is all indented, so panel liners are going to be a must if you want to pronounce them all. The inside, of course, is not really that great either, especially with this Revell logo, but then again, I think this is the back wall here, so you won't be able to see that. But yeah, look at that, it's horrible. Then we have the bottom and some propeller blades, a wiper. Here you have to assemble the main rotors. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, and gives you something more to do, especially if you want to do a little bit more yourself. But sometimes these little pins, when you put glue on, they kind of melt too quickly and you get misalignment issues. And see here on the little rotor thingy, you have nastiness. I mean, this one, for a younger kit, this is lacking in quality. And because this is a very fragile plastic, pieces such as these little nice tiny, very fragile hooks and instrument pitot sensors that go on the outside can be a little bit tricky if you're not that careful. And we have some other very small intricate pieces on this little last sprue. This is the back wall and the seats. The seats have detail. That's good. But these are very fragile again. They look very, very fragile. The instrument panel is pretty blank. It's just a blank piece of plastic that you have to put decals on. These clear plastic parts are a little bit better than on the previous ones. Here we have some seat belts and interior decals as well. They're pretty cool. They're very nice and shiny, as you would expect for a rescue helicopter. They're nicely printed, nicely laid out. You have tons of instrument panels. They're basically just dots. I mean, they're not that particularly accurate, but it's a nice touch. Here we have the second to last model, the Sikorsky CH-53G transport helicopter. This is again an older model, but this one was released, I believe, in 2013. First ever mention of this one was in 1995, so a little bit older. It's been reboxed. Sometimes some new parts have been added and new decals as well, and this one also has new decals. It's a 144th scale model because this particular helicopter is pretty big, so if they would make it in 100 scale or 1/72nd scale, the box and the helicopter would be pretty big. So it has the old style blue white Revell box that we all know and love, and let's take a look inside. So it's a pretty nice and tidy helicopter, only 3 sprues, 2 of which contain the main body and of course 1 clear parts. They're all of these kits that I've reviewed so far, they're all bagged in one bag essentially, so sometimes that can be a good thing, sometimes can be a bad thing depending upon how well the clear sprues are. And we'll start here with the clear ones. It's not the best one, but then again, it's a 144th scale model, which again, it's not really that big of a deal if it's not that clear. When they're clear, you can see inside if you want, but they're good for the purpose. The main body comes in 2 sprues, like I've mentioned. The body panels are not that bad actually, and this surface detail, except for the grill on top, is indented, so you have to use some panel liner to prolong the panel lines and the rivets. As for the rest, the quality is pretty decent. The plastic feels better. It feels a little bit more like nostalgic toy soldier feel. It's not that cheap feeling at all. It's still thin. The plastic is still a little bit on the thin side, but it feels better. And the quality in overall, you can see from the video yourself, it's not that bad actually for a Revell kit. So pretty cool. On the inside, of course, there is no detail because there doesn't need to be at this scale. But overall, it's a pretty nice helicopter. It's a pretty cool looking one, actually. I really like it. I think that of the kits today that I've seen, this one is the most, it's the best one that I've seen. And also, if I take a look, I've just noticed this one also has the little guides for the windows. You can see the little spots on the windows on the edges. If I take it closer, you see the little spots on the edges. The placeholders for the windows, which is again very nice touch. Yeah, I really like this one. This one is truly an awesome piece of helicopter. For this small scale, they're kind of extensive. You have a nice big decal sheet of various numbers and warning signs and stuff. It's really an impressive model, I must say. What do you think? But I really like this one. Little dots. Pretty good. Okay, the last one. Alright, so far we've been looking at Revell level 3 model kits as well as Tamiya's level 3. Level 3 basically means easy or difficult it is to put together. So it's kind of in the middle. It's not that difficult. I mean, you've seen that the part count is not that big. Now, this one is the only one that's level 4, and it's been reboxed quite recently. And by recently, I mean 2019. Yes, the new box art with the new box logo and everything. But this one, I think, has roots in Zvezda. The first one was released in 2007 by Zvezda, and then Revell kind of went along a couple of years later, I believe, and went out with this one, and then they just reboxed the same one from that period. So a 2019 release, but an old model, again with a new box, just like before. So it's a level 4 and 1/72nd scale model. It's a very unique helicopter. I mean, the opinions on this helicopter kind of vary. Some people like it, some people don't. Personally, it's not the best looking helicopter I've ever seen, but it is a unique thing, so you know, I would give it a go. So let's look inside. This is a pretty beefy model. I mean, when you take a look at the plastic, it's pretty thick. It's Zvezda type of plastic. It's really very massive. Wow, I'm really surprised. I mean, this is like a very thick plastic. So, wow. I'm really kind of shocked, to be honest. I mean, I didn't expect this to be so thick. I mean, oh my lord, look at that. It's wow, very sturdy. It's Russian made, you know, for Russians. Okay, so we have what we have here. We have some arsenal with some rockets. We have some rockets here. Yeah, I mean, even the smaller pieces are really rigid and big. They're nice, really good, solid frame. Look, I mean, it's really hard to kind of push it together. It's wow. Okay, stop talking. Okay, so arsenal, yeah, good. We have some rockets. We have some explosive charges. We have some smaller joysticks. I believe these are for the cockpit. Then we have what we have. We have the rotors, which you have to assemble. Nice and firm, really firm. There's not much flex in them whatsoever. And we have one sorts of covers and stealth equipment, landing gears, tails. Wow, the quality is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. And here we come to the most beefiest part ever. This is the main body. Wow, my god, look at that. The rotor, the back rotor. This is, what is this, the main rotor part? Yeah, this is the main rotor part, to which you then attach the blades. And then we have, of course, the shark or fish looking body. Really tough build, thick plastic, my lord. The surface is not smooth, it's textured, but the details are indented, so panel liners should be here at play. We have some base for the arsenal and the landing gear. Yeah, and of course we have the all important clear parts, which, yeah, there's Zvezda style clear parts. If you build Zvezda models, you'll know what I'm talking about. They're okay, but they're not great. This being a Revell model in a new box, it also has colored manual and some decals. Look at that. Shiny, bright Russian decals. The little star really pops out, doesn't it? There are all sorts of little small decals to put on. Kind of lose yourself with tweezers and hours going by trying to position those suckers into place. And of course we have the cockpit here on top and some numbering. So yeah, this little camo, what a surprise. That's it. I hope you have enjoyed this little video of mine. So what, in my opinion, is the worst model and what is the best one? Well, the best one is definitely this one, the Sikorsky CH53. This one is a very surprising model. I really, if you're gonna buy this, you're not gonna be disappointed. The worst one for me would be this one. It's just the plastic and its flash and all that. It just looks kind of crappy. I know that the other helicopter, the 1/44 scale model with the very thin plastic, is right up there, but this one is just a little bit more disappointing. But the most surprising one of all was this, the Kamov. really thick plastic, really beefy looking helicopter. It's not the most desirable helicopter, but the box art is really cool. And the price range for this one, level 4, I mean, it's really cool. So there's your pick. Hopefully I've helped you out a little bit if you've been struggling to buy one of these kits. And yeah, as for me, thank you so very much for watching. If you have been, thank you for liking, commenting and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon in the next one. Bye bye.